Coach Musser, OAC event, first youth wrestling event of the year that I've been to. Have you been to any others?
We went to one a couple weeks ago, out in maybe Steubenville.
Okay.
So it was, what's his name? I'm drawing a complete
Schmitty?
No, tall blonde-haired guy. Drawing a blank.
Not Coach Goff. Coach Goff just passed away.
I heard.
That was a tragic thing, and
Yeah,
it was a
sad.
COVID-related thing too.
Yeah, that's sad.
So
that's crazy.
it's a real thing in the wrestling community. We understand that. But you're
Yeah,
a college coach in the Mid-American Conference at Cleveland State.
Yep.
You know, you're here coaching youth wrestling. But how do you shift gears from D1 college wrestling to coaching youth wrestling? How do you do that?
Oh, well, you just gotta, you gotta have it in proper perspective, right? Obviously in Division I, we're competing at a very high level. We're preparing these guys for, the toughest competition in the country. With the kids, there's a lot of tough kids out here. I mean, this is a great tournament and a lot of competitive kids. But a lot of these kids, are just getting introduced to the sport. They're very new, they're very young. And, you just want to make sure that they have a real positive experience, right? You're teaching them good stuff, good technique. You're taking them through tough practices. It's by far, the toughest that they've ever worked, really, in their lives, and it's a great thing for them to learn that way. But you just got to understand that we're at 9 and 10-year-olds. You got 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds out here wrestling, and, just make the proper adjustments.
So you grew up in Northeast Ohio, right? You wrestled on I think, some of the greatest high school wrestling teams of all time with the Walsh teams you were on.
Yep.
It was incredible, man.
It
was
was
fun
awesome
to watch.
It was fun to be a part of.
And then you go to Penn State. You're an NCAA finalist, multiple-time All-American. Were you second and third?
Second and fifth.
Second and fifth. So it's pretty good. Those are great accomplishments, right?
Thank
but
you.
D1 wrestling is just it's on another stratosphere.
Sure.
Every kid, a lot of the parents out here just don't know. They just don't have the knowledge and mindset of Clint Musser. Okay,
Right.
They really don't. So many people think their kids are going to go wrestle at the highest level or play baseball at the highest level. There's a basketball tournament. They think their kid's a D1 basketball player. What would you say to parents? And first off, who are you coaching?
My daughter.
You're coaching your daughter.
Yep.
Right. So girls wrestling is really gaining steam.
Yep.
Women's wrestling, of course, right?
Yep.
But what would you say to some of these parents that you see out here and they're coaching this how you and Josh would coach at the NCAAs or the EWLs to get to the NCAAs? What would you say to some of them, Clint?
Just take a deep breath, right? It's intense because it's wrestling, right? Sports are intense as it is, which that's a good thing. It's a good thing for these kids to learn what competition is, what really working hard and pushing yourself towards a goal is. And it's really tough in wrestling, right? Because it's one-on-one. Right, and it's your kid, and you're emotional, and you're attached to it. My whole thing would just be, take a couple breaths and just try to take it easy. As much as you can, right? As much as you can. The yelling and the, that type of stuff. That really doesn't do any good for the kids, right? And I would encourage people, don't get too competitive too soon. How they do in a youth tournament at 7, 8, 9, 10, even 11 and 12 years old. Isn't determinative of what they're going to be able to do down the road. My parents did a really good job. I actually use them as a model because, they encouraged me. They got me to all the places that I needed to be, North Akron Wrestling Club, the tournaments week in and week out. And then when I got there, they let me do my thing, right? And I was able to have ownership of it, fall in love with it, and grow, right? As opposed to having something forced on me. That's never a good thing for athletes. So absolutely, get your kids out here, encourage them to participate in these great things, right? And learn awesome skills, get strong, get in shape, gain confidence, just a million positive things, right? To gain by participating in wrestling in particular, but other sports as well. But, give them the opportunity to grow. Let it be theirs, right? That would be probably my number one advice, is let it be theirs and support them. Support them and let it be theirs.
So you're a 4-time state finalist in high school, a 3-time champ.
Yep.
2-time All-American. You've done it at the highest level. You fought MMA. You made it to, what was the highest promotion? NAAFS?
I got into Bellator.
You got into
I
Bellator.
fought one time in Bellator.
That's incredible.
But I was a little too old to be.
But that's incredible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it was great.
You've been to the highest levels of all of. You're a Division I guy.
Yep.
Division I, 4-time state finalist. That in Ohio, that's like the standard. What you've done is the standard of wrestling.
Sure.
Do kids need to do all the sports? Is specialization something that you did? What do you think about people doing multiple sports and gaining the confidence and the strength and all the other things you talked about?
Yeah, no, I think, obviously things have changed a little bit, right? But I think playing multiple sports is important, especially when they're young. right? I played soccer all the way through my junior year in high school, right? But I was wrestling the rest of the year outside of soccer. As soon as soccer was done, it was all wrestling for the rest of the fall, winter, spring, and into the summer. When I finished with it was usually Fargo by that time. Then, I was taking it easy a little bit and then get ready for soccer, right? So, I think the kids, they learn so much by playing other sports, right? Like I learned misdirection in soccer, right? To get a person out of position to make a move in soccer, right? That helped me. I translate that into wrestling, right? You learn other strategies, you learn other techniques, plus you also develop other muscles. One of the big problems we're seeing in youth sports right now is overuse of these kids' same muscles and joints over and over again, and then they're having these serious joint injuries at young ages, right? Playing multiple sports will help alleviate that, right? Specializing, kids wrestling almost year-round or 10 months out of the year, at 8, 9, 10 years old is, to me, a little too much. They need to be having fun. They need to be involved in other sports and things on those lines. And then, when you get to a certain point, you say, hey, I'm a good athlete. I'm really succeeding, right? Doing well in this particular sport. Then you look towards your specialization. That's how I handled it, right? Obviously, it's a little bit of a different environment, but really you're not going to see these kids' true ability as an athlete until they start getting into those early teen years. That's when you're going to start to see, okay, this kid does have potential maybe to get to that next level. All right, now let's invest. Now let's really get in. And I think that's, probably, can't tell people what to do or how to parent, but that's how I'm going to be doing. That's how I did it as an athlete as well. So.
Okay, so Ian Miller, I want to talk Ian Miller.
Yeah, Ian.
Ian Miller is near and dear to me. Obviously, it's my nephew.
And me too.
But
Love
the
Ian.
crazy thing about Ian is Ian turned the corner because of Clint Musser. It's not a secret. Ian it is a secret. Nobody knows it because Ian doesn't talk to anyone. Ian's just a humble guy, a quiet guy, nice kid, as you know.
Right.
But just a freak, just a mutant, right?
Freak.
And we knew that early on.
Incredible.
My brother Ferd knew it.
Yeah.
And Ferd's obviously he was a 2-time state champ, wrestled at Ohio State. But
Yeah.
when you got a guy like that he's at a fork in the road, right? And he's a mutant.
Sure.
We know he was the 5 seed as a freshman, and you weren't coaching him.
Right.
And then you come in that red shirt year, I believe, and then the following year, and you get him. He's a 4th placer.
Yep.
Smashes Derek St. John in the Conti semis in one of the craziest matches I've ever seen of just offensive output.
That was awesome.
Right, and you're in the chair for that. But how did you get Ian Miller to turn the corner, and how are you trying to do what you do with Ian to athletes at Cleveland State? How did you do that?
Well, yeah, that's, so.
I know there's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
We got awards coming, but.
Yeah. No, Ian was great, and I saw it very early on, right? And the unique thing was how I was coaching at Kent, I had the opportunity to really work with Ian because it was his redshirt year. And I was basically coaching the red shirts and taking them all over the place, right? So, one of the things I noticed that he was getting kind of burnt for the sport. If I'm correct, I think that maybe he was thinking about quitting, which would have been an absolute tragedy, right? Because of the talent. So, what I talked to Ian about is, several things. Just finding his passion for the sport, finding his love for the sport, because you really need that in college. It's hard, it's a grind. You got to have it in your heart. You got to know what you're doing, right? And I wanted him to kind of revisit his own personal goals and focus on that, and not focus on anything else that was dragging him down, right? And then really we taught him how to, really train for that level, and then, prepare, wrestle a full 7-minute match at this level, right? He wanted to go out, and he could probably throw 90% of the country on their back and end the match in the first period. But we wanted to beat that top-level guy, and we wanted to know how to do that in a 7-minute match. And we had to work on helping him put together a 7-minute match where he kept within himself, kept his cool the whole time. And so that was the focus, right? And, and he got, I think he fell back in love with the sport during that year. Had a really good, productive redshirt year. I think we worked through some really good things. He was in a position to have a great year the next year, and then we just learned week in and week out, and he put together a great season. It was awesome. It was one of my best coaching experiences ever. But my favorite was University Nationals when, I think he beat Bo Jordan. I think he teched Bo Jordan, and then pinned Tyler
Caldwell.
Tyler Caldwell.
The world champ, because Ian didn't go.
because Ian didn't go. It killed me that Ian didn't want to go. He's going to go fishing with his dad.
And he did.
And I love he went fishing with his dad, but I said, can't you go fishing with your dad the next week, Ian, and let's go win a world championship? But, but that's Ian, but he's great, and I love him. And he did fantastic, and super proud of him, and looks like he's doing a great job as a coach now, too.
Okay, we've got people waiting for the podium. Last thing. You ready?
Okay. Sure.
Are you a body wash man, Clint Musser, or are you a defense soap bar man? Which one?
Bar of soap all day long.
Boom.
100%.
There it is. The bar of soap.
Defense soap. Love you guys.
You got, and guys, he's Cleveland
Yep,
State.
absolutely.
NCAA qualifier for you.
Cleveland State and all of wrestling all over the world. Thanks, guy. We love what you do, man.
All right, we got people waiting for the podium. Thank you for the time, Clint
Yep,
Musser.
you got it.
You're my guy.
All right. Thanks.